The question almost everyone asks about New Zealand before they book is the right question asked in the wrong way. Is New Zealand worth visiting? What they actually mean is New Zealand worth getting to? And those are different questions with different answers that require a completely different kind of honesty to address. New Zealand is one of the most extraordinary places on the planet. This is not marketing copy. It's the considered verdict of everyone who has been there, including people who are hard to impress, people who travel constantly, people who've seen most of the world, and still come back from New Zealand saying it was different. The landscape is geologically young and therefore dramatic in ways that older, more eroded landscapes aren't. Active volcanoes, geothermal fields where the Earth is visibly doing something, fjords that were carved by ice less than 20,000 years ago, mountains sharp enough to look unreal, coastline that alternates between surf beaches and deep harbors within the same afternoon's drive. The culture is specific and interesting. The food has become genuinely good. The people are, by wide consensus, among the most immediately warm of any country on Earth. As a place, New Zealand is unambiguously worth visiting. That question is almost too easy. The real question is what 20 hours of flying does to the calculation, and this is where the honest conversation has to happen. The flight to New Zealand from the Northern Hemisphere is one of the longest regular journeys in commercial aviation. From London, it runs somewhere between 22 and 26 hours with a connection, often through Singapore, Dubai, or an Australian city. From New York, it's 17 to 20 hours. Even from the west coast of the United States, the shortest option for North American travelers, it's 12 to 14 hours. This is not a budget European weekend break extended by a slightly longer flight. It's a journey that takes a full day or more from your life in each direction, that arrives at a significant time zone difference of 12 to 13 hours from Europe, that costs substantially more than most long-haul trips simply because the distance is so extreme, and that requires, not suggests, requires at minimum 2 weeks on the ground to even begin to justify it. Going to New Zealand for less than 2 weeks is one of the most reliable ways to waste a very expensive trip because you spend 3 or 4 days on each end recovering from the journey and the time zone, and what's left in the middle isn't enough to see the country properly. And here is where the worth it question splits into two completely different answers depending on who is asking. For the traveler who is 2 weeks or more, who can afford the flight and the time, and who is drawn to wild landscapes over cultural immersion, New Zealand is not just worth it, it's among the best decisions available in international travel. The country is safe, the infrastructure is excellent, the driving is straightforward on well-maintained roads with signage in English, the accommodation ranges from excellent hostels to extraordinary lodges, and the density of remarkable things per square kilometer of the South Island in particular is almost absurd. In the South Island, you can drive from Christchurch to Queenstown in a single day through landscape that cycles from the Canterbury Plains to the glacial lakes of the Mackenzie Basin to the dramatic mountain pass at Crown Range with Queenstown visible below, and every hour of that drive is delivering something genuinely extraordinary. Fiordland, in the far southwest, contains Milford Sound and Doubtful Sound and a chain of fjords carved into mountains that rise from the water without foothills, directly like walls, and the region is so remote and so protected that it remains one of the least human-altered large landscapes on Earth. For the traveler who can only go for 10 days, or who has a limited budget being stretched to make the flight work, or who is primarily interested in food and culture and cities rather than landscape, New Zealand becomes harder to recommend with the same certainty, not because it fails at those things, but because the distance-to-return ratio is harder to close. 10 days in New Zealand, with the journey taken into account, is not the same as 10 days in Italy or Japan. You are spending a significant fraction of that time in recovery, in transit within the country, in airports. The landscape is worth it, but worth a 10-day trip from London? That's a more honest calculation that only you can make, and making it honestly before you book is more useful than either reflexive enthusiasm or reflexive doubt. Let's talk about the practical shape of the country, because the internal geography of New Zealand changes what enough time actually means. New Zealand is 2 main islands, the North Island and the South Island, plus Stewart Island in the far south and a chain of smaller ones. They are genuinely different in character, and between them cover more of the spectrum of what makes New Zealand than most visitors fully appreciate before they go. The North Island contains Auckland, the country's largest city and main international arrival point, and it also contains the volcanic plateau of the center, Tongariro National Park, where the famous Alpine Crossing is one of the most spectacular day hikes in the world across volcanic terrain that includes active craters, emerald lakes, and a landscape that simultaneously looks like the moon and like the set it was used for in a certain fantasy film trilogy. Wellington, the capital, sits at the southern tip of the North Island and is compact, walkable, arts-focused, and the best city in New Zealand for anyone who cares primarily about food, culture, and urban energy rather than the outdoors alone. The South Island is where the landscape reaches its maximum drama. The Southern Alps run the full length of it, creating a spine that catches weather from the Tasman Sea on the west and sends it over a dramatic divide to the drier, more golden east. The west coast, the wet side, has the Franz Josef and Fox glaciers, both accessible from the road, which is unusual for glaciers of this size, though both have retreated significantly due to climate change and will continue to do so. The Mackenzie Basin, east of the main divide, has Lake Tekapo and Lake Pakaki, two glacially fed lakes of an improbable turquoise color that comes from the rock flowers suspended in the water, and which sit in a landscape under some of the darkest skies in the southern hemisphere. Tekapo is an international dark sky reserve, and the night sky there, on a clear night in the southern hemisphere summer, is the kind of thing that produces long silences in people who've just seen it. Queenstown, in the Lake District further south, is New Zealand's adventure sports capital and also its most tourist-dense destination, and while the setting is genuinely beautiful, it functions somewhat like a resort town that has grown around its own reputation, with prices and crowds to match. The Fiordland beyond Queenstown is the furthest and the most extraordinary. Milford Sound accessible by road, Doubtful Sound requiring a ferry crossing to even reach, and both delivering something that no photograph has yet managed to fully prepare a visitor for. A realistic 2-week itinerary takes you through both islands at a pace that feels like travel rather than transit. A few days in the North Island, including Auckland and Tongariro, the inter-island ferry, or a short domestic flight to the South Island, and then a week working south from the glaciers through the Mackenzie Basin to Queenstown and Fiordland. 3 weeks allows you to slow it down, to spend more time in Wellington, to do the Milford track properly, to explore the Marlborough Sounds at the top of the South Island or the Catlins at the bottom. Beyond 3 weeks, you start to encounter the limits of what the country's landmass can offer a single trip rather than running out of things to see. It is a small country and thoroughly enough explored, and the point of coming back is not that you miss things the first time, but that the things you saw the first time are worth seeing again. There's one more thing worth naming directly because it comes up in almost every honest account of visiting New Zealand: the Māori culture and the question of how visible and accessible it actually is. New Zealand is officially bicultural. The Treaty of Waitangi, signed between the British Crown and Maori chiefs in 1840, forms the constitutional foundation of the country, and Maori language, Te Reo, is an official language alongside English. In practice, the depth to which Maori culture is accessible to a visitor varies significantly by where you are and what you seek out. In Rotorua, in the North Island, there are genuine cultural experiences available: hangi meals, kapa haka performances, geothermal sites deeply connected to Maori history. Though Rotorua also has a well-established tourist industry around these experiences, which means quality varies, and some of what's on offer is more polished performance than lived culture. Throughout the country, place names in Te Reo, the prominence of the haka in national life, and the presence of Maori art and design are genuinely woven into the fabric of New Zealand rather than being cordoned off in museums, but encountering the culture on its own terms, rather than as a tourist product, requires more intentionality than just arriving. It rewards the traveler who looks for it, and it adds a dimension to the trip that the landscape alone, extraordinary as it is, doesn't provide. So, is New Zealand worth visiting? Yes, specifically, genuinely, without qualification. It is one of the small number of places that delivers on a scale most destinations merely promise. The landscape is real, the warmth of the people is real, the sense of arriving somewhere that feels genuinely separate from the rest of the world is real, and it persists even now that the country is thoroughly connected to global tourism. The honest follow-up question is whether it's worth it for you, at this point in your life, with the time and the money you have available. And that question is answered not by the quality of New Zealand, which is not in doubt, but by the honesty of your own calculation. Do you have 2 weeks, preferably 3? Can you afford the flight at a level that doesn't leave you financially depleted for the rest of the year? Is wild landscape the reason you travel, or is it one preference among several equally weighted ones? If the answers are yes, yes, and yes, go. Don't hesitate. Put it at the top of the list, book the flight, and start reading about the South Island. If the answers are more complicated than that, the distance is worth being honest about. New Zealand will still be there, literally, given its geological timescale, when the timing is better. And it's worth going when the timing is right rather than cramming it into a window too small for it, and coming home having seen the country through a blur of jet lag and rushing, and a budget stretched past comfortable. The place is worth it. The question was always about the distance. Answer that one honestly, and everything else follows. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, smash that like button and subscribe to When to Travel. We're all about helping you make smarter travel decisions. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And hey, if you think your friends need this, share it. Comment below with your next destination or your biggest travel question. I'm reading all of them. Let's go.